Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to number 82 of this nonsense that we call the Blade Job. My name is Ryan. I am your host, and we are coming off of a very exciting Saturday of professional wrestling here. Now, I want to first state that you can follow us at the Blade Job Show, and by us, I mean me. You can follow Steel Trash Can at Steel Trash Can. Shut the fuck up. See, I can't ever make it the minute, so there's no reason we're ever going to get monetization on YouTube. But that's okay. Joining me. Who's joining me? Roll call. English guy first.
It's me, Mags.
Oh my god, Mags. Who would have thought?
I feel like I'm part of the team now.
You're pretty much. Yeah, you know what? Let's just change it to that, and you can do the hosting, and I'll just take a nap in the corner, because that seems better. Mags, not your other stuff. Where can they follow you on Twitter? Because we don't have 30 minutes right now.
I am not Matt Willis. I don't have a podcast for every day of the week. But if you just want to follow me, you can follow me at DAJ Kirkby.
Now, that middle one is not an A, it's an E. I know sometimes it's hard.
Yes,
E.
For Edward.
E for Edward, like that sexy, sparkling bitch who's going to play Batman now.
Oh, God, stop.
Oh, shit, there's someone else here.
Edward Woodward.
Edward Woodward. No, I don't like that. Don't do that anymore. Okay, now we've done the English guy. Let's do the lady.
Hi.
Apparently, we also have a dwarf. Yes.
Hey, I'm just excited that I was invited this time.
Hey, last time you just kind of showed up. It was fine. Do you even want to subject people to your Twitter account?
I mean, if they want my Twitter account, it's the bitch underscore.
The bitch underscore. That's what we got.
I thought that was just me. I think she's left. She just was the bitch and then left.
She was the bitch and she left. You know what? We can go until she figures out her life. So.
I'm sorry. Listen, Omar's driving and I hit occasional dead zones because you decide you want to ask me at the last minute to do this.
That's how it works.
I'm on the way to the farmer's market.
That's how
so
this
you can
works.
Deal with it.
That's how this works. How does nobody know how this works yet? There's no professionalism here. I'm barely awake. I have a headache. I'm a bit meh. I haven't had any caffeine either. That was probably a bad idea, especially because we kind of had time. Whatever. So, we will start with a little thing that took place in Cardiff. I believe I'm pronouncing that properly, which is in Wales, which is similar to England, but not England. Mags, if you can confirm that.
It's like England Junior.
Okay, so it's England Junior. Because isn't Charles Prince of Wales?
Yeah, but that is not from Wales. That's just like a hereditary title.
So from when the Queen owned Wales, that's just where it comes from.
Yeah, basically.
The first child of the reigning monarch is usually given the title of the Prince or Princess of Wales. So
Wales has no connection to England anymore.
Yeah, of course it does. They're still part of the UK.
Well, yeah, they're part of the United Kingdom, but obviously going to Wales to me, like from Massachusetts, would be like going to Connecticut, where it's like the laws are slightly different and they're different governing bodies, but they're under the same realm of the fucking cheese puff monster.
The only difference from going from England to Wales is on the roads they have a little bit of Welsh. So like where you have like left turn here or like stop for rabbits, it'll have it in Welsh as well.
So Welsh has a language?
Yeah, and it makes absolutely no sense.
Is it similar to English?
It uses letters, if that helps. There's a lot of and blah.
So that's why people with a Welsh accent sound insane.
Yeah, They definitely do. I mean, I work with one on a weekly basis.
With one of them people.
With one of them Welshes. And yeah, it sounds insane. Very insane.
And it's funny because like Welsh is gorgeous, and then like Welsh language is just so rough and like kind of like Russian, just angry all the fucking time.
I prefer to be angry, so maybe that's a place for me. I don't want to live in England. I'm going to live in Wales, where I just don't understand anyone, therefore I don't need to communicate with anyone.
It is a nice place to like drive through. I don't know if I'd like to live there.
Well, it's weird because I look at maps of England and I assume that it's bigger than it really is, because it's essentially, I think we looked it up and it was the size of Missouri or something like that. You can Mississippi.
You can fit about 4 or 5 Englands into Texas.
Yeah. And so like when people are like, "Oh, I don't live close to London." It's like, "Well, compared to me driving to Disney World, you kind of do. It's not that far."
I'm about 5 hours away from London, and
but you're a northerner.
Yeah.
It was always wild to me, like as like even now as an adult, like my like English and my European like people I follow on Twitter, like, "Oh, I'm taking the train to Ireland today," and I'm like, "How the fuck are you traveling across 6 countries?"
It's just there. It's right there.
And I have to remember that Europe, like the UK, is like the size of a fucking penny.
I took a train from Paris to Amsterdam, and it was like a couple hours. And I was like on the other side of Europe.
I can travel from where I live. I can travel to the furthest east coast in about an hour and a half. I could get into Scotland in just over an hour, and I'm in Wales in about an hour.
Yeah, see, that's cool to me. Like I don't know. I like Europe. I just hate France, to be honest. But that's just because Paris was fucking terrible.
Wow. Way to offend me.
Yeah,
JRT. My great grandmother immigrated from Paris.
Yeah, no, most of my family they left France years ago and they went to Canada because they even realized that France. I say most of my family. The majority of my family are fucking ginger Irish bastards, but the French people, they left France generations ago because it was terrible. But that's just me, and that's just how I feel. But in Cardiff, which is the capital of Wales, I'm going to keep saying that to educate people, we had NXT UK TakeOver Cardiff, because that is a long, drawn-out title for a pay-per-view. Now, I am admittedly not an NXT UK fan. I watch it every now and then. God damn it. But I don't stay up to date with it. I don't watch it every week. I just kind of watch enough to keep up with it. Okay, so that's good that you do, because I have many questions. Okay. So
I have little answers.
Good. So first and foremost, what was it? How long has Noam Dar been there?
Well, he was at 205 for a long while. He's probably been back in NXT UK, I'd say about 3 months. 3 months maybe. Okay,
has he got any better? Because he was still boring as hell.
He's still incredibly boring. I am not a Noam Dar fan.
I like he's not a bad wrestler. He's just boring.
Yeah, there's nothing that stands out about him.
No, not at all. Not at all. His new, like, pinky up fucking character, I don't get it. I don't know. I get he's supposed to be the elite, he's supposed to be the... Oh, I'm sorry, I can't say that, though. That would be copyright infringement. It just... I don't know. I don't get it. And I thought his match with other dude, whose name I'm blanking on, was just...
Travis Banks. Are you calling Travis Banks other dude?
No, I just completely forgot who he had a match with, because as soon as I saw
Noam Dar, Travis Banks is one of the highlights of NXT.
Well, but that's the thing, is I know Travis Banks. I've seen him in progress. I think he did some Defiant too, didn't he?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And then about 30 seconds into the match, I lost interest because Noam Dar was just kind of being Noam Dar.
It was probably the weakest match on the card. Well, no, actually, no. The women's was probably the weakest match, but there is reasons for that.
The women's match was weird to me because it felt like it just ended. Like it just stopped. It was just like, match is over.
I think Toni Storm's been nursing a shoulder injury from what I've heard, and
so I can say that while Omar was watching it, he was very surprised at the abruptness of the match ending as well. Because I watched his face and he was like, "Oh, it's over," and I was like, "I've never seen a response to a match like that before." So that tells me that you're not the only one that thought it just ended.
Yeah.
No, I think from what I've heard, Toni Storm did have a shoulder injury going into the match, and whether the match is aggravated and it just needed to end, I don't know. But yeah, it was not a good match.
No, and you know, just to slightly kind of carry that over. Spoiler alert: we'll also be talking about All Out. The women's casino battle royale was also, I feel, the weakest performance of AEW's pay-per-view. And it just felt like a reason to shove. So AEW's already running into an issue that WWE does every now and then, where instead of using the people they've actually contracted, they just bring in like indie stars for one-off appearances.
Yeah, apparently they were in talks with Impact all day over Tennille Dashwood, and she was in it for what, 2 to 3 minutes.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, like So I look back at the press conference, and that was kind of their big, you know, they revealed of AEW, they revealed some of their major roster signings, and one of the reveals was Penelope Ford, and she has literally her only match has been that battle royal, and she did her little handspring thing, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the most exciting thing, other than Nyla Rose winning, was Brandy getting eliminated. Past that, there is nothing memorable about that battle royale to me.
No, because they've already buried Allie, who's a fantastic wrestler.
Kylie Ray has been released.
Kylie Ray left. I don't like the term released because it makes it sound like they fired her. And that's still not confirmed. All we have is some jackass on Twitter who says that he talked to Tony Khan.
Oh, okay.
So until I hear something,
I just heard it through the grapevine. That was all.
Yeah. Until I see a press release from AEW or from Kylie Ray herself, I know that a couple months ago she was considering retiring. Mm-hmm. So this just maybe sounds like maybe she realized that life on the road wasn't for her, and then joining AEW was going to be way more time on the road, and she just decided. I don't know. But back to yeah.
I was going to say, my impression was that she was taking her toys and going home.
See, once again, everything that we're seeing right now is from dipshits on Twitter. And at the end of the day, I'm sick and tired of morons. And it's...
and yet you invite me back on the show every week.
Well, when you talk about something on Twitter, 90% of the time you have actual reports to back it up. As opposed to, oh God, I don't know, all of them. they're all terrible, and fucking we'll get back to that. So
going back to that the battle royal though, I still think the concept of it is confusing. The 5 people at once with the cards.
I dig it. I just don't like the casino motif. Because they're not in fucking Vegas. They were in Chicago. But
I think that this one went a lot smoother than the first one, though.
Oh, no, for sure. For sure. But, and this one was a lot better because we all knew that Adam Page had drawn the Joker. Like, that was, It was obviously going to be Adam Page. When no one big came out, when Adam Page didn't come out in any of the 5, it was clearly going to be Adam Page, especially because, you know, you got to have Adam Page, and Adam Page is their closest thing to a main event star right now, in my opinion, who has like the full range of main event, you know, because like Kenny and fucking Cody, you know, they are main event stars. Jericho, you know, Moxley, but they're also all in the middle to the ends of their careers. Whereas Adam Page still has another 15 years in him. You know, you got to build him. You know, that's the reason. That's for later. That's for later. We'll talk about that later. So the tag match, the triple threat tag match, WWE, and I understand that technically this is correct, but I hate when they do it. When you're doing a triple threat match, let there be 3 people in the ring at the same time. I don't understand, you know, because it's not a triple threat tag team match, and they build it. They said this is a triple threat tag team match.
Have we switched back to NXT UK?
Yes. Yes.
Just for confusion's sake.
That was not a triple threat tag team match. That was a triangle match. And
I'm so glad I'm not the only one bothered by that.
Yeah. Well, WWE likes to rewrite history in their own image. And that is not what a triple threat tag team match would be 3 people in the ring. Now, if you want to really play by the rules, a triple threat match has no disqualification. Therefore, it should have been a triple threat tornado match because there's no DQ. So who the fuck's gonna, you know, implement the tags? I liked the match, and Mags, I definitely want your opinion on it because I've seen some ups and downs about this match. I thought it was fine. I didn't think it was spectacular. I thought it was entertaining.
I enjoyed the match. I enjoyed the finish. I think giving the hometown boys the win was a good idea. Drake and Gibson have had the titles for 8 months now, so it's good to have a bit of a change. I felt it went on too long, way too many false finishes. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I can't say I didn't enjoy the match.
What's their finisher called? The friggin' flapjack into a code breaker. It's beautiful.
Ticket to mayhem.
What a finisher! What a tandem offense! Like, I mean, that finishers like that make me love tag team wrestling again. You know, and it's like, you know, it's one of the reasons I've never been able to get behind the Usos, because their tandem finisher is essentially like double frog splash. And it's just boring to me. I like, you know, I think it's also the reason I'm a fan of Gallows and Anderson. I think the Magic Killer, while it's not the most devastating looking move, it's different.
Yeah,
you know,
it's a tandem move.
Yeah. And same thing with New Day with their up, up, down, down. Like, that whole big ending DDT is such a great finisher. It's brutal, and it as long as Big E's there, it can be done with Xavier, it can be done with Kofi, hell, it could be done with, you know, fucking Daniel Bryan. Like, anyone can do that with them, you know, as long as Big E's got someone up for the big ending. And I like that. Now, with the tag titles, is it safe to say that since NXT UK only has a takeover, every 6 months? Is that accurate?
Well, the first one was in January, and it's now September.
So I mean, they kind of, I mean, I know they have a much different schedule than your standard NXT guys, because they do 2 days of taping at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they'll tape 6-8 weeks in advance.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess it's a little different for them. But they're also, all of those guys are still working for, well, anyone who's still working for Progress still gets to work Progress shows.
Uh, I, I, I think they're allowed to work Progress. They're allowed to work RCW. There's a couple of companies that they're allowed to work with on streaming services, and the other ones, if there's any streaming, then no, they're not allowed to work with them.
Do you think, I mean, because everyone says that WWE's killing the indies, which is fucking stupid, but do you think that agreement with Progress and ICW was part of the downfall of Defiant, because all of their guys who were NXT UK were not working their shows anymore?
I think it was a big factor in it. I think not being able to use Progress and RCW guys, and then also the kind of way that the New Japan and Ring of Honor links slacked off. The writing was on the wall there for Defiant. They just didn't have the big named wrestlers to be able to sustain what they'd already done. So yeah. It's sad. I actually really did enjoy Defiant, and
Defiant was the first Brit Rest promotion that I really got into, mainly because I thought their delivery method was brilliant, because they were doing everything on YouTube. You know, when it was WCPW, you know, and then when it became Defiant, you know, they continued that same trend of what they were doing, and I think that a lot of, you know, I understand there's streaming services now, but just, I don't know, it's still like, I feel like YouTube is an untapped resource to getting your name out there, and a lot of promotions aren't using it properly.
A lot of Southern promotions use YouTube pretty heavily, like PWX and a few other people down here use it. Limitless uses it a lot. A lot of what I see of Limitless is strictly on YouTube, because I'm not up there anymore.
So does Beyond. You know, they, even though they have their big deal with IWTV, you know, they make sure to still put things on YouTube. The only issue is I actually had a conversation with Mr. Denver, Colorado about this one time last year or so, and it was when YouTube changed their advertising to make pro wrestling non-advertiser friendly. So all of these companies who were getting big on YouTube saw a lot of their profits go out the window.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's why a lot of them moved to Twitch.
Yeah, but I mean, even with Twitch is so hard, because unless you have people who are willing to directly support you monetarily, you don't necessarily make money. Now, obviously, and Twitch is still very much focused on their game partners as opposed to their, you know, because even with like Impact, you know, Impact is probably the biggest thing for pro wrestling to happen outside of, you know, major TV deals and things of that nature, because they took their weekly program, and granted it's pre-recorded, you can watch it live as it airs on Twitch, which I think is huge. And, you know, having these streaming platforms available for free, you know, all you have to do is sign up and you could do this. And I'm surprised more smaller independent organizations who aren't partnered with Powerslam.tv, use code BladeJob to get free 30 days, or IndependentWrestling.tv, you know, aren't going to Twitch or you know, any of the other live streaming platforms. I mean, even Facebook Live or YouTube streaming, you know, to get their shows out there, to get people to get live eyes on their product, not a cut together match, not a music video, nothing like that. And so, I don't know. I think that it's definitely something that I'm surprised that more people aren't doing it.
Yeah, I agree.
So, okay. Tag match was, let's do the women's match first, because we already kind of touched upon it. It felt off. It felt wrong. Nothing about, like, first and foremost, I don't like how they were essentially rehashing the Kevin Owens Sami Zayn storyline. I get that it's accurate, but I don't know, it fell flat to me because no offense to Toni Storm, no offense to Kaylee Ray, they're not Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. They don't have this edge to them.
Or the acting chops. They don't
Yeah.
have that now.
I mean, Kevin Owens is one of the best characters in WWE right now. You know, he can play his role so unbelievably well. The interviews they were showing before the match, Toni, who I love, I think Toni is fantastic. She just kind of like looked at the camera and was like, yeah, no, she came to NXT and like I thought it was going to be cool, but it sucked. And that was it. Like, it was just boring.
Well, in the build up to it over the last few weeks, she's almost tried to play that Kaylee's relationship with her is affecting her. I mean, she's been going distant in interviews, forgetting what she's being asked and stuff like that. But yeah, she just wasn't very good at acting. That she was like affected by Kaylee Ray, and like we said earlier with the match, it was clear that there was something not right. I'm almost certain that Toni Storm is injured, and it was basically just a match to get the title off her. I think she's going to be a big star for NXT America. So, and that actually was the it was almost like the majority of the card were almost like goodbyes to a lot of people who were going to be going to the black and gold brand.
Well, and that makes sense with them doing weekly live soon. They are going to need hold on, ladies and gentlemen, hold on. Hey, we have a caller. Hello.
Is that Scott?
Hey. What's going on? We can't hear you. Did you butt dial me?
Professional.
All right, moving on. I'm going to text while we're doing this.
That's okay. I'm scrolling through Twitter.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're going to need to pad out the roster a little bit, especially because as stars are grown on NXT, you know Vince is going to get his hands all over them, and he's going to want to pull them up to the main roster. So having these, I don't want to call them backup stars, you know, but you kind of have to have more people. So everyone seems to think that Tyler Bate is gone. I don't think so. I think Tyler Bate's going to probably hang around at least for another couple of months. But even if he doesn't, he's already established on NXT.
Yeah, I think Bate's going to end up on an NXT. I think the grizzled young veterans are going to be on NXT. I think Toni Storm's going to be on NXT.
Well, Toni Storm is needed because they have a fairly shallow women's roster right now.
Yeah.
And we kind of just see the same matches over and over again.
And she's not British, so it kind of like fits in that she goes to NXT America.
Yeah, and that's something I noticed too that I thought was a little odd, is that NXT UK had a lot of performers that, like, in general, I'm not just saying yesterday, in general, that are, you know, Australian, or, you know, like they've got Cassius Ohno has been there, and it's like they've got a lot of performers who are not from the UK. And I think that's interesting, because I think it's good to have that, you know, variety while still primarily making it a UK based promotion. But if you think about it, one of the biggest stars in Rev Pro is David Starr.
Yeah.
You know, and
I think the NXT UK part wasn't just necessarily to say these are wrestlers from the UK. It was more these are wrestlers who are big stars in the UK.
Yeah. No, I guess that makes sense because like guys like Ono has obviously traveled the world. And having so that's the match I wanted to talk about. Cesaro and Bond Villain. I I didn't
You talking about Dragunov?
Yeah, Bond Villain. That's what I said. That's literally the name of a Bond villain. Or maybe it was a Bond gun. Either way. It was weird. I liked that match, but it felt, I don't know, it felt off on the card. Like, I understand it was more of something for the live crowd to give them, like, a really big, a legend in European wrestling shows up and has a match.
It's something that they started with the first takeover where they had Balor coming in as a replacement. I think that was for Travis Banks. And it must have been an idea that they liked. So it's send over a relatively big main roster star and give him a match and kind of like make somebody whilst he's over there. And I think Dragunov looked $1 million when he was in that match with Cesaro. I thought Cesaro really did a good job of elevating him.
Oh no, for sure. I'm sure the match was fine. I have no issues with the match itself. It felt weird to me, especially because they did the whole thing before with Cesaro showing up and saying, "I'm here. I've got my gear for a reason." Blah blah blah. Like, I felt if you really wanted to kind of like get a pop, you would have do it the opposite with Dragunov coming out saying, "Oh, I don't have a match. Fuck this. I want a match." And then having Cesaro's music hit, because that would have, I like surprises though. It's my biggest complaint with WWE is they don't like to surprise people anymore because they're more focused on ratings. They're more focused on getting you to sit down at the beginning of the show and watch it, where I'm more apt to watch if something surprising happens, because then I'm going to watch the next week and the week after and the week after, waiting to be surprised again. The Hardys at WrestleMania, even, I know he has a negative connotation now, but when Shane returned, when the Dudleys returned a couple of years ago, like, that's the kind of shit that I like because you don't see it coming.
Or Art Anderson running out at AEW.
Yeah,
apparently that was a big deal.
But stuff like that, it's like, I wasn't I didn't pop super hard for the Arden thing just because it was such a minor moment in the match. And also, Arn Anderson is not a wrestler anymore. He, and we already knew he was working with AEW. He's already done video packages for them. He's already, they've already kind of stated that, when he left WWE that he was going to be hopefully doing some road work for them. Like, it wasn't like a massive surprise. It was just kind of, oh, Arn's here, cool. It's like when DDP came out with Cody. It's like, well, yeah, no, obviously, because they've got that whole thing going on.
So, not to derail from UK TakeOver, and I know you said you wanted this to come from the mouth of Kylie Ray or from AEW, but I was just handed an article with the interview from Khan saying that she requested her own release.
Okay, so she wanted to go. It was probably, I'm still standing with it. It sounds like, because I know a couple months ago she was considering walking away before AEW called. So it sounds like she realized that no, it wasn't the company, it was the business. So, no. Best of luck to her. Maybe someday she gets her shit together. It's the way I see it. But so
it was an undisclosed medical issue.
Undisclosed.
Oh, maybe she's pregnant. Maybe she decided she wanted to start a family. Who knows?
All right. So the main event. No, actually, Last Man Standing. Shit, that was kind of nuts. I'm a big Last Man Standing fan. I think it's a good match type. And those... Okay, so Joe Coffey's a big fucking dude. I think we can all agree on that.
He's quite a big dude. I don't think he's as big as Bomber Dave Mastiff, but he's a big dude.
But that's the thing, is when he stood next to Mastiff, he looked like a little child. And once again, as someone who only watches UK every now and then, I knew who Joe Coffey was, but Mastiff was kind of a newer name for me. And
they kind of both cut from the same cloth. They're both bruiser style fighters. And
neither of them seem to have any sort of concern for their own well-being.
No,
because every spot was just dangerous, and I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. It took me a while to I legitimately thought they broke the ring for a second, because I was like, was that planned? Was that planned? And then looking at it, you can see how clean of a break it was. So it looked like they probably had one of the little pyro things like they did with Reigns. But to do that so early in the match, once again, surprise. I didn't see it coming. Like when you have big guys, you can usually get the idea that they're going to break something they're not supposed to break. And I didn't see that coming. And I guess you can call it the finish, the headbutt going off of the staging through the tables. And something that caught my eye on that is, if that spot was done in the main roster, they have the random piece of carpet, usually with padding underneath it, to protect the performers, whereas they just did it onto a wood floor.
YOLO. Who needs a brain? Who needs to avoid CTE? This is wrestling.
Sorry, I'm now doing something real quick.
Is it masturbating?
Pretty much.
Trash can doesn't want to see that.
All right. So
professional.
Yeah, no, pretty much. So I am not the biggest Walter fan. I like Walter, but the whole I slap people hard thing kind of gets old to me quickly. And honestly, it's not just him. Like, do you remember when that was Sheamus's big thing?
Oh, you mean like James Drake? That's basically all he does is chop people.
No, pretty much. It's like, and I get it. And hold on. I get it. Like, I get that it's his thing. And Walter, I appreciate Walter because he's not your prototypical professional wrestler. He's kind of just a fat guy. And I can appreciate that. Trash can you handle chat for me? I appreciate that, and I thought that when him and Bate were standing in the ring to start the main event, the first thing I thought was, oh yay, another big man, small man match. Because we never get to see that, ever. And I thought that they did a really good job of storytelling in that match. They did a good job on a classic story of the little engine that could, you know?
Yeah. It went on a little bit too long for me. There were so many false finishes and last second kickouts.
Yeah. So the one that stood out to me was right near the end where Bate kicked out at 1. I thought that was the best kick out of the match because very rarely do you see that spot done where that long into the match you get a 1 kick out.
Yeah. That was good. I enjoyed that.
And I was a big fan of that. I was also a big fan that they didn't end with any of Walter's finishers. They ended with a clothesline. And
a brutal clothesline.
It was, you know, if JBL was there, he would have been shouting and jerking off to Stan Hansen. But I like when a match doesn't end with someone's traditional finisher. And too often, the match can't end until that person hits their finisher.
Yeah, I think it was just a case of that Tyler had hit the brick wall and just couldn't kick out anymore. I like the way that it was almost he'd been beaten into submission kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I thought that Tyler Bate especially was the clearly the standout of that match, and I actually think they should keep him around for another 6 months or so, especially because Pete Dunne has just returned to NXT.
I can see there being a little bit of a transition, but not long into NXT's debut on TV, I think Tyler Bate will be there.
Yeah, I still think, I mean, at least not maybe until they figure out what they're doing with Pete Dunne first, especially because, I feel like Tyler Bate's going to return to NXT to save Pete Dunne, because they can't just have Pete Dunne continue to be Mr. Undefeated guy. Yeah. You know, they can't just, they have to transition him into, a different role. You can't just, you can't just do the same thing. And it's something that we'll get to in actually just 1 second, because we got to move on. The same way that they were talking about Pac last night at AEW, where like, oh yeah, this could be the start of a new undefeated streak. It's like, Jesus Christ, like, this is literally his first match. Like, I get it.
I'm pretty sure Pac broke his fucking leg last night.
I'm pretty sure everyone did, because those guardrails were way too close to the ring.
Agreed.
But so I guess that's a easy enough transition into the world of All Elite Wrestling, who did All Out, and
finally I have something to contribute.
And I'm gonna say it right off the bat that you can see them getting better and better. You can see the improvement, that they're looking at everything that they do and then saying, what went wrong? What do we need to fix? What do we need to change?
I can definitely say that the blackout for Orange Cassidy to come out was a lot shorter than the first blackout they tried.
Well, he was probably sleeping under the ring.
Probably.
Yeah, my thoughts, like in general, on All Out was, I think it was the best in-ring wrestling show that they've done so far, but it was the worst production that they've done so far.
Oh yeah, especially, I mean, I don't know how many production call-outs I heard during the show.
Yeah,
you could constantly hear. I mean, the ending.
So bad.
The countdown at the end. You had
Yeah,
Tony Khan doing a 5-second countdown.
like
Yep.
like I get like I don't know if this is a question of, you know, friggin' they're calling it out through walkies, or they don't know how to route their audio, and this is coming from someone who has terrible audio half the time.
Cups and string, I think. I think they do it with cups and string.
Yeah, that makes sense. That sounds about right.
And not even
But
good cups, Dollar Tree cups.
for me, the two weakest parts of this show was two ex WWE employees. It was Jim Ross, absolutely shat on so many wrestlers, and even his own like commentating team were having to like cover up for him. And then the other one
He
was
sounded so bitter.
yeah, I mean, when he was on about Rio winning and having to face Nyla Rose, he absolutely shit on Rio from a great art. There's no way she's going to be able to beat this 250-pound woman. And it's like, Jim, she just fucking won the match. Give her a bit of fucking, like, a push. And then the other one was Earl Hebner. I felt he was so over dramatic.
I Yeah, no, I can agree with that. It's I think it's a bit of clash of generational styles at the same time. And I think this is the reason that they're bringing in Tony Schiavone for weekly television, is because they're going to want to they're going to want to have someone who has been doing this consistently, because even after he left WCW, or after WCW folded, he's been doing commentary for baseball.
Yeah.
So he's consistently done commentary, and he's been in MLW for the past year or so, maybe 2 years. He was doing commentary for them.
I think it's about a year.
Yeah. So like, he's a guy who's still he doesn't have to relearn how to ride the bike. He just never stopped.
And the thing he's got over Jim Ross is he's moved along with the wrestling times, where Jim Ross literally just sounds like a Jim Cornette kind of person, where he's just like so angry about the current product. He has no idea what he's watching, and it felt like Golden Boy and Excalibur just had to keep bailing him out of his mistakes over and over again.
It's like when you have your racist grandpa yelling a bunch of terrible stuff, and like his nurses have to like rush him out of a restaurant.
Yeah, but you give him a long-term contract with a major wrestling promotion.
I see. I didn't think it was nearly as bad as, say, Fyter Fest or Fight for the Fallen. I think that he is getting his bearings back. I do agree that he was a bit overly aggressive. And I do believe that one of the major issues is in WWF, when he was there, he had a lot of direct contact with these performers, and he actually helped develop these performers. He knew them in and out. He knew them really well, and he was doing this weekly with them. So he just knew these people. He knew everything about them, because he does have like this encyclopedic knowledge of the performers. Whereas with AEW, he's looking at a lot of these people and he's like, I don't know who the fuck this is. Like, who is this guy?
But surely that's on him to do some research and at least get a bit of a background knowledge. I mean, if I walked into a new job, I'd be looking at what my role will be and what I need to learn to do that role. He doesn't seem to have done that. He doesn't know the wrestlers' names. He doesn't know the wrestlers' moves. He just seems to be a bitter, angry old man.
And this is coming from a bitter, angry old man. So I mean,
exactly. So I know exactly.
You know exactly what you're talking about. I don't know. I'm giving JR a little leeway until weekly is a couple months old.
Well, again, going off the rumor mill, the rumors are that he's not going to be doing weekly commentary anyway. He's going to be like an almost like a backstage interviewer kind of person. So that'll probably suit him now.
And yeah, it's weird because I feel like commentary in general has been their weakest link. You know, first you had Marvez or whatever his name was, and who was just atrocious. I mean, he was one of the worst professional wrestling commentators I've ever heard, mainly because he's not a professional wrestling commentator. Yeah. You know, and bringing Golden Boy in permanently was a good move to replace him. I think that if they were smart, their weekly should be Excalibur and Shivani. 2-man team. You know, save your 3-mans for pay-per-views. You don't need 3 men weekly. It was, but yeah, the whole production aspect of it is definitely something they're still working on, because I think they proved last night that they have the in-ring talent. You know, they have these people who can, you know, just perform no matter what. Obviously we talked about it earlier. You know, the women's battle royal was not good. It was messy. It felt forced. It felt like, and it was the exact same thing that WWE does. We need a number one contender. Let's just throw a bunch of people in the ring so we can have the person we want.
Can we bring it back even further from before the women's battle royal real quick? I don't know if either of you listen to Talk is Jericho, but I'm subjected to it every time Omar and I drive anywhere. And Brandy was on Talk is Jericho, and she was talking about how they are sensory inclusive. So if you're
hold on. I want to know what this beeping is.
It's my car.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Go ahead. Nope.
Okay, sorry. I'm trying to get it to stop beeping because somebody needs to put a seatbelt on. Okay, so my issue is, if you're going to sit here and claim that you're sensory inclusive and you're going to shoot off almost $1,000 worth of pyro during the national fucking anthem, you're just a whole liar. You're a whole tire liar.
I always feel like that's weird, because they're like, you know, we're here to honor our troops, who probably a lot of them might have some sort of post-traumatic disorders, and we're gonna make explosions. I've always felt that this is weird, because a lot of places do that, and it is always felt weird to me. Same thing with the flyovers when you know, football teams and WrestleMania, when they do that, it's like, you think the first thing that someone with post-traumatic wants to hear is jet planes flying over them. Like
just inappropriate pyro is probably the worst thing in the world. Like, I expect pyro during entrances. I do not expect pyro when a tabernacle choir is singing the national anthem.
And I agree. I thought that, you know, I always think that that's weird. But yeah, we'll talk about pyro more. The women's battle royal just didn't work for me.
But the right person won.
Yeah, no, I mean, it makes sense. You know, they're trying to build Nyla as their monster women's heel. And I appreciate what they're doing, especially when they are doing this very, you know, David and Goliath style storyline with Rio. You know, it's going to be interesting, to say the least. What was the other pre-show match? Private Party and
Helico.
Yeah, and Helico and.
It was a pair of highlighters versus the Harlem Globetrotters.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm a big fan of Private Party, just because they got their start, or at least they got a lot of ring time up here in New England. And I'm just a big fan of them. I think they're entertaining. And people need to stop relating them to the Street Profits, because both of those teams have been around for a long time. And it's just stupid. It's just, you know...
All I have to say about that match really is that, like, again, all the inclusivity of AEW, while Scorpio Sky loves to use the F word on Twitter with reckless abandon.
Wait, what are we talking about now?
Scorpio Sky will sit here and call anyone and everyone the F word.
No.
As much as AEW loves to say.
The bad F word.
But
the one for the British one for cigarette.
Yes, but we're still on the pre-show.
Wow.
We haven't moved on to SCU yet. I need you to focus. Focus.
I can't.
I know.
Going back to this match, I think Angelico and Evans are brilliant, and I do not like the way that they are now the jobber tag team.
I think it's tough right now because it's hard to determine who's going to be the jobber and who isn't, because they haven't done much yet. You know, with this whole, like, their tag team division is insane. It might be the best tag team division on the planet, hands down. And I just, that's why I'm really happy that as of now, the Bucks are not in the tag team tournament. I'm sure that will change, and I'm sure they will be, but they're not making them the center of this tag team title tournament at the moment. And once again, it's going to change.
Plus, we have the addition of LAX now, which is a really good addition to AEW.
Well,
I'm sorry, who?
They're allowed to be called LAX, are they? That's
Oh my god. So I was just shown the poster for the next Impact show, which is LAX versus whoever they're against, and like all the comments on Twitter are, I wonder who's gonna win.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure who LAX is, but I know that EYFBO showed up. I refuse to call them LAX because they didn't start that tag team, and I hate that they just got shoehorned in because they were Hispanic.
I think they're at AEW, they're going to be the Baruchwas.
Yeah, they said that a couple of times, didn't they?
I think and those are, you know, obviously, you know, I've seen them perform many, many times, and those are guys who are actually going to elevate the tag team division. At the same time, though, AEW's biggest issue with their tag teams is every single tag team they have is a high-flying tag team. You know, they don't have any brute force tag teams. They don't have any technical tag teams.
The Dark Order's pretty brute force.
Yeah, the Dark Order, to me, is... I don't know how to describe it. It feels like a cobbled together it feels like a WWE tag team. It feels like just some, you know, they don't meld together. Like it just, I don't know, if that makes sense. Like they don't fit together. They don't feel like a tag team.
I saw a comment on Twitter where it said, first of all, Stu is not the name of a brutal wrestler, but it looked like a Walmart version of Ray Rowe and someone just wearing generic wrestler mask number 3.
And you know what? That's not a bad explanation to what they are. So tag team wise, I would like to see a little more variety in their tag team division. Their singles division seems to be thriving right now, because I don't think that there was a bad singles match. I don't think there was necessarily a bad match on the card. There were definitely some that didn't fit in as well. I thought Pac and Omega did a phenomenal job with each other, And as Melissa stated, I'm surprised that one or both of them didn't break their legs.
So it got really sloppy, like maybe like 3/4 of the way through the match. I don't know if you guys noticed them both duck under
Yeah.
nothing.
Yep.
But on top of that, like Pac did a flip outside of the ring, and his shin just hit that guardrail harder than
Oh,
a crash test dummy into a windshield. I am
it
surprised the
looked
match continued.
Yeah, it looked absolutely painful, that the way he landed.
Like Pac is a man that doesn't often sit here. Like you very rarely have I ever seen Pac visibly in pain. He's usually very, very good about taking it like a champ. He was hurting. And I honestly was surprised the match went on as long as it did after that impact, because I fully expected the match to end early.
I could see that. They they both went a little hard. And I think that's what's a little bit worrisome about where AEW is right now is a lot of the performers feel like they have to go the extra mile. And you like already like I saw a bunch of people saying that like, oh well, of course Moxley's injured. Did you see all that stupid shit that he did? It's like, this is a nagging injury he's had for a while. It's the same injury he had 2 years ago in WWE. Like, this is not something new. It's just something that didn't heal properly, and he needs to get it fixed again.
He's got his MRSA he got in his elbow.
Yeah, he has chronic bursitis in his elbow, which evolved into MRSA. And so they've been draining it and treating it all these years, and they finally elected to just have the entire bursa removed. That's a major, like, life-changing surgery, so I'm not surprised that he's waited this long to get it done.
Yeah. And luckily, because of obviously, waiting, we do see advances in medical technology, and he's only allegedly going to be out for like a month. And that's, why would you do it? Because the last time he had, when he had, what was it? Was it a staph infection? I don't know. Cause he had the elbow injury and he got an infection from it. And that's why he was gone for almost a year in WWE. I'm blanking. I was actually at the show, his last show, before he left, and I guess that's when he really agitated it. And but it's like, he'll be back and he'll be good, and it had nothing to do with him taking a couple barbed wire spots. It's
They kept the storyline with him and Kenny going as well, so there is still that to come.
Yeah, and I think that they'll have a fantastic match. And speaking of, brutal, violent nonsense, the triple threat match between Havoc, Janela, and Allen was the best way to do a deathmatch style match without taking it too far.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I just don't understand Darby Allin's mindset. Why did he do so many things to hurt himself, but yet not even attack his opponents?
That's
Why did he Why did he coffin drop through a barrel?
Because he's 26 years old and he's dumb.
That's his whole gimmick. I feel is that he puts his body on the line, regardless of if it's beneficial to him or not.
You know what the worst part is? Out of all the dumb shit that happened during that match, the only thing that legitimately made me physically ill was the sound of Joey Janela just hitting the floor.
Oh, yeah.
That dead body thud.
Yeah.
On God, and you can ask Omar, I almost vomited.
Yeah, I won't do that.
I mean, there was some good, like, interesting and unique moments. I like the taping Havoc up and taping a mouthful of drawing pins into his mouth. But
drawing pins.
Well, thumbtacks.
Thank you.
But when the first lot of tape didn't stick, he just kept them in his mouth. Now, if that were anyone with sense, they'd have been spitting them out. But and I like the chair spot that Janela did, where he ended up sat on the chair. That was
impressive.
I've seen him do that before, and it's one of those things that never gets old. It's just a really entertaining spot.
I thought that was really cool.
You know, especially because he's got such like an adorable, like nonchalant, like nope, not today.
Yeah,
he's so proud of himself.
The skateboard was good as well.
Yeah, no, and I agree with the commentary team. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. That may have been a first. So Riho and other chick whose name escapes me at the moment. Yeah. That was
I don't even remember that match.
It was okay. Like, I don't know. I don't know. They've got an issue with their women's division.
Out of all the Joshi matches they've had, this was the weakest. There was a lot of...
by far.
Quite sloppy. I don't know enough about either girls to make a massively informed decision, but I did like the fact that Riho won.
I think that Rio versus Nyla Rose is the right way to go at the moment, especially because I was so unbelievably sure that Brandy was going to be in that match. And I think that the original plan was to have Brandy in that match, and the outpour of negativity towards it may have changed their mind.
Yeah, I just don't want Brandy to be the Shane McMahon of the show.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's exactly why.
And she's going to be. You know she's going to be. Yeah, you mark my words that we will be having this conversation in less than a year and going, fucking Brandy Rhodes, why won't she go away? Like, it's just going to happen. So, kind of running low on time. We're going to skip around. So, the ladder match was... I don't really have words. So, I know that it wasn't a ladder match. It was an Escalade de Muertes, a ladder to hell, which was cool. But I was like, what's the difference? And then I guess the difference was there was a bunch of tables as well. So it was a it was a TL match. Which I thought was great because I think tables play a really big role in a ladder match because it's hard to do high spots unless you have something to break your fall. Yeah. So I think that the use of the tables was really done. What I don't think was smart was using a fucking, 6-foot ladder in the center of the ring to try to do an over the top rope table spot when you're way too far away.
Cracking your head off it.
Well, and tearing his hand open, too. It was just like, why wouldn't you use one of the taller ladders? Like, because he had to jump so far, and he still barely made it because he nicked the top rope. That was a dumb spot. It was cool, but it was dangerous as shit. And I was really surprised that they took such a stupid risk.
Yeah. I mean... In general, I enjoyed the match. I thought entertaining, but I'm ready for this feud to be finished.
Yeah.
And then even got to TV.
Well, I mean, granted, this feud's been happening for like 5 years. Yeah. It's and I get it. They just want to show it to a worldwide audience. That's fine. But now the Lucha Bros, they have their titles, still. They can take them back to AAA. The Bucks can focus on whatever. The Lucha Bros can drop their titles to someone in AAA, and then they can start a feud with EYFBO, which is what we all really want.
I think that a lot of the danger with the Young Bucks comes from they are just too... and the Lucha Brothers, they're just too confident in what they're capable of doing, and that leads to sloppiness. It's the same thing that happened with Omega and Pac. They're so confident in their abilities that they're messing themselves up. That table spot is memorable because they fucked up, and that puts a dent in the match itself.
Yeah, I agree.
they're two teams that consistently need to push themselves, and I think that's just who they are as performers. They consistently need to do better and better and better, which that's tough because it's the same thing that happened to the Hardys, where they were like, the Hardys, Edge and Christian, the Dudleys. They were like, okay, we did this. How do we do it even better? How do we make it more crazy? And, the Hardys especially, were usually the victims of most of the punishment. And look what happened to them. I mean, both of them were addicted to drugs. Both of them were alcoholics, because they just needed to get through the pain.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And that's what I'm worried is going to happen to the Young Bucks. But finally, we had the boyhood dream came true as Chris Jericho became your All Elite Wrestling champion, and I thought that was the best way to do it. Correct. And I want to know what other people think.
I hate Jericho. I hate him. I wish he would go away. I don't want him anywhere near any product worth anything. However...
So you're saying you hate professional wrestling?
I just hate Jericho. But I have to sit here and agree that at this point in AEW, the best option was to make him the champion.
He legitimized their company. No,
absolutely.
He really did. And this wasn't Goldberg winning the Universal title. This was someone who has proven themselves throughout their 30-year career as someone who Chris Jericho can make stars while still looking like a star himself. And that's what they're doing, because we all know in professional wrestling, the most entertaining storyline is the babyface coming from behind and winning the title. And you can't do that if your babyface is your first champion. Where's your storyline in that? So having Jericho beat champion. What's that?
From my point, I love Jericho. I think he's the best thing that's ever happened in wrestling. So I'm not friends with Melissa anymore. But no, I agree. I think he was the best person to put the title on. He's the biggest name. He's the biggest draw. He legitimized it, and like I said, it gives the face someone to basically to chase rather than be the first champion. I think they played it really, really well. It was really good booking.
No, and it was a good match too. That Jericho, I think, did a lot of things that he usually doesn't do anymore just because it was such a big match. And something that I've always been a proponent of, they used blood as a storytelling technique. Where it wasn't a blade just to be bloody. It was, at the last show, there was a miscue and Paige took an elbow to the face and he split his eyebrow open. Let's use that as a storytelling technique in this match. And I thought it was brilliantly done. And the one botch that Miss Aubrey did was she made it way too obvious she was handing Jericho a blade.
Yeah, that was
she reaches in her pocket and she goes, "Here, I got this for you. Look at this. You need this right now, don't you? Here, take it."
Bless her heart.
And then Jericho's like, "Thanks for the blade," and he rolls out of the ring. Where she should have waited for him to roll out of the ring to go and check on him, where they can use the ring apron to slide the blade.
It was almost as bad as was it All In where Cody needed.
Oh God!
And bring him a blade to...
Jesus Christ, that was terrible.
That
and he barely nicked himself.
Yeah.
He had 18 minutes to blade himself, and he was there was a trickle of blood. It was terrible. It was one of the worst blade jobs I've ever seen.
Blades are scary.
These are. You know what? I'm gonna quote everyone else. It's not ballet. I'm sorry. You don't have to do this. No one is going to require you to cut your forehead. It's And the best thing you can do is just do it, because it's going to hurt less if you do it once than if you do it 4 times.
Yeah.
That's just the way I look at it. And it is what it is. So, having Jericho be champion is good. That match was good. That match was the best possible outcome for AEW's inaugural world champion.
Yeah.
I think that Adam Page is set to be the next huge megastar in professional wrestling.
I can agree with that.
He is poised to be AEW's Stone Cold or AEW's Rock or AEW's Triple H. Like, he is posed to be that guy. He's young enough where he still has a nice long career ahead of him. He's talented enough in the ring. He's got a really interesting moveset. He's going to be the next guy. And arguably speaking, when he eventually has a falling out because Cody's a piece of shit, he's going to main event WrestleMania. I firmly believe it, that he will be this generation's biggest star, hands down. And as much as Cody wants it to be himself, he can ride a horse. As much as Cody wants it to be himself, Cody can never be a megastar. Just because he has a cult following of a bunch of idiots who think that, he's reinvented pro wrestling. Cody hasn't done shit. Cody used his name to get, attention, but Cody didn't do this. Tony Khan did this. If we want to thank anyone, we should thank Tony Khan, because he's the one who said, hey, I want to do a thing. It's just, I don't know. But we still have one thing to talk about, and that is Mr. Cody fucking Rhodes. So
I am so angry.
So first and foremost, let's just get this over with. He had a match with Ty Dillinger. Nobody gives a shit. Moving on from that, I clearly do not like Cody, but last night gave me that much more ammunition of why he is a total piece of shit. And that was, as Melissa, you and I have talked about, and as I posted on Twitter, maybe, just here's a thought, don't set off pyro next to your fucking dog.
Yeah, that was awful.
I want PETA to be so far up his rear end, he opens his mouth and Sarah McLachlan comes out. I am so angry with what happened last night.
I think the worst thing about all of it, and I'm double checking right now. Give me 1 second. And of course, everything's taking time. As far as I know, Cody has not even brought it up.
No, I have not seen a single lick, whisper, because I was on Twitter looking for it too. I have seen nothing addressing what he did to Pharaoh. I have seen dick all about it. And that makes me even more angry, because he's getting backlash. No one's going to let that lie.
It's absolutely, I don't know, it was just, and even if that match was good, because I don't know, because I was barely paying attention, what happened completely pulled me out of that match. And the fact that the only person who was showing any sort of remorse was DDP, who was spent the entire entrance, talking to Pharaoh and petting Pharaoh and making Pharaoh feel safe, while Brandy just kind of yanked on the leash.
It's the moment you see Pharaoh, first of all, just the noise of the crowd, and this happened in All In, too. I want to clarify for anyone listening, Pharaoh was disgustingly uncomfortable in All In with no pyro. The crowd, the yelling, his ears were tucked, his tail was tucked. He was incredibly uncomfortable the first time Cody brought him out, and that made me angry. This time, the poor dog is in the tunnel, ears tucked, trying to lay down. Brandy dragging him by his leash. Cody couldn't give a damn about his quote-unquote service dog. And the only person giving any sort of comfort to that dog is DDP. And then Brandy just says, F it. And they drag the dog backstage because the dog didn't want to play the dog and pony show on that day. I'm sorry. That's disgusting. It's been disgusting that they've used him as a prop for his career. That is a dog. That is not a handbag.
And it's not, and the thing is, it's not a dog that's trained for this kind of stuff. It's not a dog that, you know, like, I mean, I go to, you know, Beyond shows and things of the like, and one of the mainstays is Solo Darling, and she will bring Officer Magnum. Now, Officer Magnum has literally grown up in a professional wrestling ring. Officer Magnum is used to crowds shouting and cheering. Officer Magnum,
he also has his a legitimate state licensure as a therapy.
Yeah, it's you know, that's a dog who understands what's happening around him, and who I've seen the most raucous crowds with the ring and people screaming and people getting smacked with chairs. I've seen Officer Magnum curl up and go to sleep in the corner. Like, he doesn't even care what's going on. You know, and it's a dog that's trained to be around loud noises and things like that. You know, Pharaoh is just a dog. And I'm sorry, but, you know, like we said before the show, Cody may not understand that service dog and, like, emotional support dog are two different things. But that dog is clearly not trained to be in this type of situation.
Definitely not. I mean, I'm just scrolling through Twitter, and there's a lot of backlash about what happened. But there's quite a few. No, obviously with Twitter you take it with a shot of penicillin, but there's quite a few people saying that Tony Khan has actually read the riot act to Cody over it and said it was not cool. This was Cody literally just like going into business on his own, and even Brandy has fired into Cody about it. So I don't know who to believe, but either way, that was not a cool situation to put that dog in, and it was a bullshit.
Ultimately, to me, it doesn't matter the who behind the why. What matters is that it was done. So regardless of who, of why, or whatever reason, the push comes to shove, Brandy and Cody are directly responsible for putting their dog at risk, at a health risk, because you shot off pyro next to a dog's ears. You could have deafened your dog. Secondarily, you have now traumatized a dog that they have admitted is already high anxiety and already harms itself because of its own anxiety. You, regardless of whose idea it was or why you did it, Brandy and Cody are directly responsible as pet owners for what they have just done to their dog. And highly anxious dog that they've admitted is highly anxious. They set off several bombs next to him, subjected him to loud crowds twice now. I hate PETA for many reasons that I won't go into on a wrestling podcast, but I want them so far up his ass that he will taste them for the rest of his goddamn life.
Yeah, I mean, once again, I've said it before and I'll say it again, that Cody Rhodes' ego is the most important thing to Cody Rhodes. And this, you know, this is just one more reason, especially because it sucks because the cult will defend him. Yeah. And because everyone seems to say that AEW's fan base is the problem. It's not AEW's fan base, because I'm part of AEW's fan base, and I'm not one of these people who goes around telling everyone, oh, you watch WWE, you suck. Like, I don't fucking care. Watch whatever you want. Did everyone see CM Punk's quote?
He would not talk to the WWE. Very interesting.
No, that's not what I took away. What I took away was he said at StarCast, he said, no, you can watch WWE, you can watch AEW, you can watch NXT, you can watch New Japan. It doesn't matter. You can fucking watch them all, and that's fucking cool. Like, that's what he said. He said, watch wrestling, because at the end of the day, he may have stepped away from the business. he's still someone who's been a fan of the business his entire life.
Yeah.
You know,
but
he's just like...
did say that if WWE called him, he would be open to speaking with him.
He also said, I hope WWE calls me so I can take some time off. Which is the joke of, you know, getting signed and then asking for your release and collecting your paycheck. Yeah. Like, I don't know, Leo Rush. Piece of shit. But yeah, no, this just gives me one more reason where I look at Cody and I say, you are the downfall of AEW. And AEW's fan base is not the issue. The cult of Cody is the issue. The cult of Cody, the people who are so blindly loyal to this half-rate wrestler, this, you know, he actually did the bionic elbow last night and he couldn't even do that right.
He fucked up the disaster kick again as well.
I mean, he's been fucking up the disaster kick since like 2004.
Yeah.
That match was just such a cluster of a hot mess. There were just so many bodies that nothing quality would have been able to come out of it. Regardless, there was just too many bodies, too much fuckery. It had no chance of being good because there were just too many factors.
The only good part of that match was
again. It was overproduced.
Yeah, the only good part of that match was MJF versus Tully Blanchard. That was the only passable part of that match that made me. And once again, it could have been a great match for all I know, but I was so annoyed that I barely paid attention to half of it. And Cody doesn't deserve my attention in the ring.
I think I went to bed before it ended because I was that angry. I had to get off Twitter. I had to walk away. I had to go because it was too much. Yeah. As my dog lays at my feet, like I just got so angry.
Now I agree, but you know we have done way too much time. So, Mags, I'm gonna let you pimp your shit real quick.
I don't have any shit to pimp.
No, we're not. We're just follow him, and it'll lead to everything else. Because he talks about things.
Follow me. If you want to listen to my podcast, there will be links there. So crack on.
Yeah, and then just because we, I feel like we're missing someone. Don't forget to follow at the Matt Attack UK. Because he has 1,800 podcasts. You can actually listen to 4 podcasts a day. And by the time you're done listening to it, he's released another podcast.
That's actually accurate.
Mm-hmm. So, I think this has been much more professional than what we've been doing lately. And I'm a little surprised because I have a headache and I'm tired and I didn't know what was going on. So, ladies and gentlemen, good night.
Does Melissa not get to pimp her stuff now?
She doesn't have anything else.
Rude.
Do you have a podcast now? Go ahead, pimp your podcast.
Okay, how about this? I'll pimp the fact that you guys should be buying your groceries from your local farmers market. How's that sound?
It's so far away though, and like there's cow poop, and it's weird. I went to a fair, so that was that. I got to see a demolition derby. So that's my redneck for the day. So good night, and good luck in Boeing or something. I don't know, whatever Kenny's saying these days.
Every Wednesday on the Wrestling Perspective Network, RJ and Michael Berry Sr. come to play on the Revisionist Booking. They rebook a wrestling pay-per-view from the past and try to make their cards awesome. Follow them on Twitter at Revisionist Book, at Michael Berry Sr., and go over to iTunes, Stitcher, and blogtalkradio.com/Wrestling Perspective Network and subscribe. Head over to whatforapparel.com/Revisionist Book and check out their great apparel as well. And as always, you're welcome, and let the Revisionist Revolution begin.
That you can know me. Don't try and play